joining us this evening. My name is Isabella Rowan, and I am the program coordinator here at Delray Beach Public Library. Tonight's special event is part of a series of programs that are planned in conjunction with the Americans and the Holocaust exhibit. And I would like to now turn the floor over to Kim Coombs, who is going to introduce our very special guest tonight. Welcome, Kim.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I have my teacher voice, so I don't need a microphone. You got that? Well, I was going to tell you that I'm Kim Coombs, and that I work for the school district of Palm Beach County, but I feel like I don't need to do that anymore. Thank you, Isabella. It's been a pleasure working with you, and you are doing a phenomenal job with this exhibit and all of your programs. We're very lucky in the school district of Palm Beach County that we have a dedicated person to Holocaust studies. And we're one of the only districts in the country. I think there might be a couple others, but for the most part, no other school district has a person dedicated to Holocaust studies. Okay, so that's enough about me. You might have noticed that Norman Frashman was on the program to speak tonight, but when I called him, he wasn't feeling very well. We said, no, your health is the top priority. And his very good friend, Sam Ron, they've known each other how many years now? How many years have you known Norman? 25 years they've been friends. And Sam stepped in to save the day. So I'm honored to be here with you today as you witness living history, which Sam is. We all learn about historical content in movies and in books, and maybe you learned about it in school. However, hearing a survivor in person is an experience that will have a great impact on your life, as I know it has mine. Before we get started, I want to read a short quote from Elie Wiesel, the author of Night and Nobel Peace Prize winner. He says, "The ideas of telling these stories is to sensitize people. That you should become more sensitive to yourselves, to your friends, and even to strangers. Become sensitive, not only to the story of what we try to tell, but about what happens even today. Because what happens today is always related to what happened then." And Elie Wiesel also says, "Whoever listens to a witness becomes a witness. Today, we are a witness. And it's our job to pass on what we learned today." If you have any questions or comments, we're going to save those at the end. We'll have some time if you want to say something to Sam or ask him a question. But it is now my great pleasure, because I know you didn't come here to hear me talk, it is my great pleasure to introduce Samuel Ron. Sam was born in 1924 in a small town 30 miles northwest of Krakow, Poland. His family name was actually Rakowski, and they lived there for many generations in that small town. So welcome, Sam. Do you want to use this microphone or you got that one? Does it work?
That's what. Can you hear me?
Yes. Take it off the stand.
Yes.
Take it off the stand? Here, I'll pass you this one. I'll trade. She said to hold it. Alright, she said it doesn't work. Then you don't use the stand. You have to hold it.
No, could you move the stand just a little bit?
Okay.
Okay, is that good? So Sam, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for...
You know, it's wonderful to see so many people here. I just wonder, is anybody heard about or listened or talk or read a movie or something about the Holocaust? Anybody here? Oh, so I don't have what I want to say. I can go home right now. Well, in any case, I would like first to tell you who I am. You know, sitting here, she said already that she gave out the secret when I was born. You hear that 1924. So I'm 97 years old.
Yeah.
And I lived live now in Independence Living Sinai residences on a Jewish place on the Federation in Boca. And I live with my wife. We just celebrated 72 years of marriage. I myself was born in Poland. My wife was born in Israel, so she is a native of Israel. So we just married in Israel, but that's not that. So the other thing I want to tell you, I know for sure that I'm Jewish. And what we say is actually that our Jewish heritage is to remember. We remember. We don't forget things there, good things and bad things there. Now, I myself was born in Poland. At age 15, a war broke out, and the German occupied my city September 4th. The war broke out on the 1st, on the 4th, they were already in my town. Now, Polish Jews, we had 3.5 million Jews in Poland before the war. 70,000 of us Polish Jews survived camps out of millions. 70,000 of us survived camps. There are other people survived in Soviet Union during the war. 250,000 Jews. Some children were hidden in monasteries. Some people were on false papers. Some were hidden by Poles or French or other people. But 70,000 of us only survived the war for count of the camps. And I'll tell you something. Only a few of us are still alive from the 70,000. You mentioned my name, my friend Norman. There's another. Very few of us, and some of us who survived don't remember and don't talk anybody either. So very few of us from Polish Jews survived there. See, not only that they killed the millions of Polish Jews, but they brought all the other millions of Jews from all over Europe and killed them in Polish camps. So Poland was the killing fields for all the Jews, so we were witnesses of the Jews. So here you have somebody who spent 5 years and 9 months on the German jurisdiction. 5 years and 9 months. It started out in the beginning. As soon as they moved into our place, our dignity was taken away. Our freedom was taken away. Our business was taken away. Our schools were taken away. Our synagogues were burned. We were in the beginning, we had curfew. We couldn't move the house from home. We couldn't move out of town. We had to walk on. When the German came, you couldn't walk on the sidewalk. You had to walk on the side. That was the beginning, And then it started getting worse and worse every time. Yeah. Now, personally, I lived in my little town for 2.5 years in my house under all these laws and slave labor. But at the same time, there were ghettos created, like the ghetto in Warsaw had 500,000 Jews. 70,000 Jews died from hunger and from sickness in that ghetto. And there were other big ghettos like Lodz, what they call Litzmannstadt, the Germans, or Krakow, or Kielce. There were the big city of ghettos. But I lived in a small little town with more than 1 million Jews lived in a little small town in Poland, and we were like, we call it an open ghetto. But there were all kind of incidents, If they took the force away, they killed you. Any order, any regulation was death sentence if you ended over there. In 1941, as the Germans attacked the Soviet Union, you've probably heard about this, right? So at that time, as the Germans had a blitzkrieg, they very quick went behind the army. They created 4 special groups. They call it in German Einsatzgruppen, and they killed over 1 million people by single bullets in eastern Poland, in Lithuania, in Latvia, in Belarus, in Ukraine. And it's just 80 years last week was an anniversary. In one city in Kiev, They killed 36,000 people in 2 days. They call it a Babi Yar, if you heard and think somebody was talking about this. So this was in 41. It was impossible even from the Germans. You know, I seen one time a movie that Mr. Himmler was the head of the SS. He came to visit one place. He even vomited there. So it was very difficult. So the Germans had a conference in Wannsee in Berlin on the 22nd of January 1942, and they decided on the final solution for the Jews. They had a list of 11 million people. So what they did is they created gas camps only for killing gas chambers, Treblinka, Sobibor, Belzec, Majdanek, and then later in Auschwitz to southern Birkenau, where they were only taking Jew people in there and gassed them. This was not any labor camps. In 1 year, in the 3 camps, Treblinka, Sobibor, and Belzec, they killed over 2 million people, gassed them. I'll just give you one figure of what actually it's an amazing story is. See, the ghetto of Warsaw had 500,000 Jews. In 2 months, in July 14 to September 18, 1942, they moved 350,000 Jews from Warsaw ghetto straight to Treblinka for gassing them. So now let me just go back, tell you the personal story. So what did I do? What did I do? I gave you general now the idea. What did I do in the 5 years, 9 months? So like I told you, the first 2 years I still was in my house. So in 1942, they deported all the Polish Jews to the death camps. As in the summer of 1942, as stuff started getting closer, the neighboring city was already deporting. So my family prepared a place to go in hiding with Polish friends. As they get closer to the end of September, on Tuesday afternoon, we got to know, my father got a Polish policeman, a friend. He told him that on Monday they're preparing to deport our city. So we walked out from our house Saturday night. We walked out from the house, going in and hiding in a barn. 8 people, 2 families. Can you imagine? Nobody was chasing you. You just walked out from your house in the midnight, from a nice house, going into a barn. And what, and the issue was there, we had a 90-year-old grandmother, and we couldn't take us with her. We had to walk 4 or 5 miles. So, we walked out from there, she was in bed, nothing was said, but you imagine what happened, because we knew that next day she'd be dead. So this is an experience that you had, first experience as a young man. So we walked into the barn, live in the barn. Let me tell you that our Polish friends didn't do this for money. We didn't pay them. They were friends of my father, and so they provided a place to make the big hall in a barn, and we stayed in that barn. It's hard to imagine how it feels to be in a barn, and the death sentence was around you. The death angel was vis-a-vis, around the town, because they were killing a lot of people outside, but we heard about it. So as things got, not that the people chased us out, but we decided by ourselves to move out from there and to smuggle ourselves into the ghetto Krakow. It was a 30 miles road there. See, we had an uncle, Isaac Levenstein, I don't know, in New Jersey, somebody knew. So he lived in the ghetto. So how did we smuggle in the ghetto? My father had a friend, a man who had a big estate. It was a nobleman in Poland, they call it. He provided horses and buggy, and so we went like to us. We were going to the market, you know. So he brought us close to the ghetto, and then we smuggled ourselves into the ghetto. Now, we thought we were very smart. I think the Germans were smarter. They really didn't give a damn that you get in. They wouldn't let you get out. You know? So we wind up in the ghetto Krakow. The ghetto Krakow was not that many people. The ghetto was divided in two sections. One section was people who were working in some places, you know, and it still has a destiny to live for a while. And then there was a ghetto B, people who didn't work any place, they were destined for that, you know. And then I had no idea. Have you ever seen Schindler's List movie, anybody?
Yes.
Okay. So on March the 13th, I got a job to work as a metal worker. You know, the German army couldn't exist without me working for them. You know, I was making some lamp for them, God then knows what at that time. So on March 13, 1943, they liquidated the ghetto. So what did they do? Anybody who was working was marched over to the concentration camps. Warsaw was a suburb of Krakow. And the people who were in the ghetto B, if you've seen in the movie, there were more than 2,000 people executed at that day over there in that ghetto there. You know, there was a famous speech. The guy who was in charge of the liquidation is the unknown Get. Later he was commander of the camp in Russia. He made a speech over there and he said this: we came here to destroy 800 years of existing of the city of Krakow. By night, we no sign of the city there. So here, I got a new place to live, a concentration camp, Warsaw. And in Warsaw, I was with all my family there. My mother, my father, and I had a younger brother, 3 years, and I had uncles and all kinds of cousins. We had big families in the camp there. Now, the camp was unbelievable, frightening there. First of all, the commander of the camp, Amon Get, every time he looked, he shoot somebody. He had two big dogs who were eating up people, you know. But then the other thing what happened there were constant selection. You know, the selections they picked up, they didn't like the people, they sent them to Auschwitz, to death camps. I was witnesses. There's a sound, a woman was standing behind me, she was pinching a chick that she was having, a little red one, that she, you know, she was looking better. So that was tragedy. And then there were execution all the time, hanging people in the camp for all kinds of reasons. And then they had another place, they call it, there was a hill right there. And in Polish they call it Chujowa Góra, it means a prick hill. Why that? They were bringing people from the outside and they were shooting there, the people had to undress. So they called it, I've been there at the Warsaw many times back now right there. So in Warsaw, I would say this, we were not very hungry at there, but it was a very frightening place. So by September 1943, and I came back from the work, they put me in a stockade. And then after 2 days, they shipped me out over there. So the first time, they put me in a cattle car, and they said, whatever they said, where we're going. Now this is the first time I was separated from my family. I was the only one who picked up. I didn't know. My mother was picked up at the same time, but she was in another cattle car. I didn't know about it. Now let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when you walk out in that cattle car and they shut that door and they give you a bucket of water and a bucket for sanitation, you don't know where you're going. You become an animal there, you know. You have no idea how it feels to be. I've been 4 times Holocaust like this. Every time they move you from one place to the other, you really don't know where you're going. You don't believe what they tell you anyhow. So they moved me out to another camp, to Pionki, which is south of Warsaw, was a big ammunition factory, the largest ammunition factory. There was a big factory there. There were thousands of people working. There was some Polish working, but we had 2,000 or 3,000 Jewish prisoners working there. So we brought us to that place. Now here, when you just got to a new place, the first thing they take you into a shower room. And so you don't know, you're waiting to see what's going to come out from the shower heads over there, gas or water. But this time water came in, so we will start dancing there, water came out there, you know. Yeah. I just want to try to give you an idea how it feels to be there, sitting there. You wait and see what's going to come out on that shower head. So after we got shower head, we got settled down in the places. There was another camp. It was not so sophisticated camp. We didn't have all the selection, all this stuff there. But what we had is hard work, and less food, and less sanitation. It was horrible, you know. A lot of people didn't make it, you know. But finally, I worked there many times. I had actually a good job. I was with another group to unload coal, because there was a powerhouse there. There was making a power station. So they had to feed the oven with coal. So in the wintertime, when you brought the coal in, it was warm and dirty. It was kind of a good place. I say a good place to feed them. Well, you know, so what happened is, this was already 43. In 1944, the Russian army occupied half of Poland, eastern Poland. And they stopped in July at the Vistula. You know, Vistula was a Polish. In Polish they call it Wisla. It's a Vistula. That's where they stopped in July. Our company, our factory was 6-7 miles away from the Wisla there. So the Germans actually decided, they evacuated all the prisoners from all the little camps in Poland going west. To Auschwitz, to Buchenwald, to Buchenwald, just like taken away. They didn't want it that the Russians would liberate us, you know. So finally, so they stopped working in the company, and the manager, the German manager, he decided he didn't want to go to the war to the east. He got permission to move the factory to Germany. So all we were doing was assembling the machinery, loading up on trains, taking Germany. So what happened is, this one day they brought in cattle cars, and they're supposed to take everybody to Auschwitz. Now, whatever happened, I don't know. It was not our time yet. The trains went out empty. And then we were working, dismantling the factory. I really didn't want to work anymore. I was 18, 19 years old. I was sleeping on the third floor, on the third bunk. Now on Saturday morning, a foreman came and pulled me down. He said, "You're going to work today." So I went to work to this day. You know what destiny is. Well, who's managing this? The God, but he's got a computer there. So, you know, when I came back from work, the rest of the people were taken to Auschwitz. And 300 of us remained there. And the manager of the company said that we 300 were going to go to Germany to rebuild the factory. We didn't believe, but that's what he told us. So, you know, we were working a couple of weeks to dismantle the factory. And finally, one day, they loaded us up on cars again, that we're going to Germany, you know. But this time was a little better. Instead of 100 people, we had 75 people in the train, you know. So we were promised something, but we didn't believe nothing in it. So while we was moving out at night, the Polish partisan attacked the train. They thought maybe it's a military incident. So they destroyed the locomotive, and there was a couple people wounded. And then in the morning they fixed it back up, and we started going again. So we're supposed to go to Germany. Next day, they stopped us again someplace, and then we get off the train, and they take us into a barn, 300 of us. And we didn't know what would happen there. No sanitation, no food, nothing there. What we did for 2 weeks, they make a dig ditches, anti-tank ditches. You know, the tanks, the Russian couldn't come, so that we had to dig. That was hard work, but that was work. And finally, after a couple of weeks, they take us again to the train. And they said, now we're going to Germany again. But this time, you don't believe this, I call it first class. This time they only put 50 people in a train there, you know. So, so it was, and we had fresh air, because they even opened it, they kept the door open, and the guard assistant was sitting on, 2 of them were sitting, that we couldn't get out from there. And they were saying that now we're going to Germany. Well, you know, we were very close to Auschwitz, so we didn't believe nothing what they're saying, but we were watching very closely. As soon as because that was very close, around just the Hobart, close to Auschwitz. So as soon as we passed Auschwitz, and we passed the Polish border, so we know that we got another day to live. So, but now, going to Germany, we get to they sent us to a camp, Sachsenhausen or Oranienburg. That was one of the largest camps in Germany. It's a suburb of Berlin, the headquarters of all the German camps there. So as we would unload us on the station there, was sitting on the cattle cars. They didn't want us in the camp. They don't want the dirty Jews come from Europe to bring us typhus or something. They didn't have any Jewish people in that camp at that time. But you know, for 6 hours, they were negotiating. They didn't have a choice. We marched into the camp. As we marched in the camp, they put us in isolation for 3 weeks if we don't get sick. So you go get again in the shower, you know, they strip you, they shave you and they strip hair your head, and then they get a shower, and after the shower they gave us some DDT, you know what DDT is? Chemicals, you know, spread on us, and they gave us a paper clothes, no shoes, and they put us in a barrack, 57, for 3 weeks we were in isolation there. They were giving us very little food, but 3 weeks went by. They brought us some better clothes, heavier pajamas, you know, you see the strips out there. Gave us wood shoes, and then they take us to the place where the machinery was ready. Another sub-camp in Clayman. We were only 300 Jews in a little camp there, 2 barracks, 3 in kitchen there. Now, I just want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, at that time, the last 8 months, we were hungry. We were hungry. Yeah, you don't believe me, what I'm telling you is, for 8 months, you know what the food was in 8 months? In the morning, you get up 3 in the morning, and then had a pig place, and then they call Rauko. You know, there were 30,000 people in that camp. I couldn't figure out what the hell was they worried. They were going to lose one of the people. It didn't work there. It took us an hour to get the roll call. After the roll call, we get some coffee. It looked like coffee, you know. And then we go to work. And then we come back after work, 4 or 5 o'clock. We got soup. But I'll tell you, as close it was to the end of the war, you couldn't even find a piece of wood in there. And on Sunday, you got 2 slices of bread. On Sunday, 2 slices of bread. That's one time they one time they brought us a little cake on Christmas time. I don't know why they did that. Anyhow, but so, it was not unusually that you wake up and next guy to you is cold, dead, and dead. A lot of people died from hunger. It's unbelievable what hunger is. I don't believe it. I'll tell you a story. When I was there on that camp there, we were going with the machinery was to the campus. Coming back home in the winter time, we had 3 or 4 German guards. 30 of us were walking. There was a German farmer walking by with a load of beets for the cows. We jumped on that beet, and everybody grabbed the beet and started eating it. The guards were stunned. They didn't know what to do. They wouldn't shoot or nothing. So they make us put back the beets and the stuff there. And when we get home to the garage, every guy got 15 lashes, But I felt that the lashes were not so bad. The reason why that was because the guy was an old man already, an old assessment, So he was hitting me, but there was not. I just was, somebody said, well, it's so bad. So gentlemen, ladies, this was in Germany, food, we were very hungry, very hungry. So by January, they took us back to the main camp, to Sachsenhausen. There were 30,000 people there. They brought in 10,000 more people. We had to sleep one in front of the other. There was no place there. There was terrible, terrible condition. And again, very hungry. There was no execution there at the time when I was there. There was some because they were doing the queuing outside on the other side of the camp. We didn't see it but that what happened there. So we were going out to work there every day. I was working one time in one company. The name is made hand grenades called Hermann Goering Workers. One time as if they were making airplanes, I think. And then one time I was working making bricks for the 1000th Reich they want to build there. But one time I had the job, 10 of us was taken to the city of Berlin. We were a suburb of Berlin. And we were digging out unexploded bombs. Like a 250-pounder. The Germans, the Americans, or the British dumped there, was not exploded. We didn't worry about the detonators. We had a German fireman who took care of them. But we were digging. But what happened is this, when we were working, it was air raids. When it was air raids, they showed us into shelter to the Germans, in the shelter. So over there you could find a scrap of apple or scrap of wood, something. So a scrap of cigarette was worth the ration of your bread. So that was kind of during the work, a nice experience, Well, so in that camp, it was terrible. Hunger was terrible. And so finally, in April, it's 1945, there were rumors that tomorrow we're going to go out by nationalities. They're going to say there was over 30,000 people. So, we Jews know when it's nationalities, and we're going to be on the list that they are ours. We be the worst thing off there. So let me tell you, in that Sachsenhausen, we had a red triangle, a red triangle, which means political prisoners. On top of that, they put us a yellow triangle the opposite way. It was like a Star of David. So me and another friend decided this time we're going to pull our yellow off there. So I'm not Jewish anymore. We pulled our yellow patch. So next morning, the announcement, they have to set up by nationalities. So both of us decided we're going to go with the Polish people. They were Polish prisoners there, political prisoners. So we're trying to get in with them. So they kicked us out there. They said, "You dirty Jews, go to your home." You know? But the assessment, the guy didn't know what this. He pushed us back in, so we walked in with the boss. It probably didn't nothing happen to the Jews, but you know, there was order from us there. So here we get on a march, 30,000 people walked out that morning from Sachsenhausen. So we were in 6 people in the bread. They gave you a loaf of bread, fresh bread, for 6 people. A loaf. Somebody cut it in 6. I got a 6 part of the bread. Sam looked at us and said, "There." But so I just finished that bread on the spot. I said, "I'm going to lose it. Somebody steal it from me." Now let me tell you, gentlemen and girls, for 2.5 weeks, no food was given on the march. We marched 204 kilometers in 2 weeks. No food was given. Now the first week, people marched, you know. So anybody stepped out got shot. No ask, no judge, no judgment, anything. On the second week, people walked out. They stopped shooting. People laying in the ditches. Now we know why. What happened is this: the head coach, Mr. Himmler, made some arrangement with the Swedish already. He wanted to save his own life, you know. So they stopped shooting, and Swedish Red Cross ambulances came and picked up the sick people there. I would never walk in an ambulance because the Germans were always camouflaging. When there was a death camp, they put a Red Cross there. Now for 2 weeks we walked, and the last week, 4 days maybe, they walked us about 2,000 people. One group of 2,000 in the forest was like in a blank place there. Now we stayed there. I can tell you, people ate the bark from the trees as much as how cold they can reach it there. And then there was a little creek. In 2 days, was not a drop of water there. Hundreds of people died there, you know. And finally, let me tell you, on May the 2nd, 1945, midnight, the guards disappeared. And we were free. So 5 years, 9 months, nightmare was just over. And a new nightmare begins, you know. So I got free there. Now, I don't know if you want me to continue talking or you have any questions. I can keep talking later what I did.
Questions?
We have a lot of questions. Should I bring them the microphone, Isabel?
Sure, yes.
Okay. I'll be like Phil Donahue. Oh, this is like a dream.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. It's interesting you talked about the fact that they were going to take Krakow and make Krakow without any Jews at all. They were going to take it apart. The biggest Jewish festival today in Europe is in Krakow. Interesting point. Second of all, what did you do after the war? You came here, I understand. What did you do?
He was actually a hero.
Yeah,
after the war.
I didn't want to talk about this before. I thought you had more questions about the Holocaust, but I can tell you this. You see, as the guards disappeared, you know, it was midnight. So the other prisoners, Polish, Ukrainians, all kind of stuff, they start running away. And we waited until the sun comes out in the morning. So as we walked out the camp, it was a German house, little house there. So we stopped there. And I figured the first German I'll find, I'll shoot or kill, you know? So I walked in there, there was a woman and a child there. And nothing was in the house because I said, "Where's the food?" She said, yeah, she had already another guest before us there, something running before there. There was nothing there. So my vengeance of killing went kaput. Stop, you know. So I started keep walking hard. I can tell you this, that place where we were liberated was very close where the Americans and the Russians was meeting. We walked a little farther, I found an abandoned German tank, you know? So we crawled up on the tank. And when we find out, they wouldn't believe this. Some sugar and cognac. So my first food was a little sugar. It's not funny. So anyhow, so we keep walking to the main, there was a highway there, the road. As we walk to the house, I see, hundreds of thousands German soldiers running away from the Russians, want to be captured by the Americans. They didn't want to be captured by the Red Army, because you know how they treat them. So I see Germans. Well, from time to time I seen some GI, walking around there. But so what happened is, we stepped up on one of the trucks and we get into the city. The city was a few miles away, in Schwerin, the big city. So as I walked into the city, there was a place, it used to be an army camp there. So now the Americans put some survivors in there, whatever they would feed them. But in front of it was standing a GI with a bayonet. I said, Sam is not going in any place where there's a soldier watching it. So I would not go there. So we went with one other friend. We picked up there was a bunked house, we went on the second floor, that's where we made the first house. But I'm just going to tell you, at the same time, we grabbed a lot of stuff from the German soldiers who were going in POWs. We helped us with a lot of stuff from them, So that I'm just going to tell you this. Next morning, we went downtown. I went downtown, and MP was standing there, controlling the traffic, and two soldiers in a jeep were sitting on the side there. And we looked at this, and you wouldn't believe what I said. I just thought it was my idea, or my friend said. He said, I think that one soldier looked to me like Moshe from Brooklyn, a Jewish So we don't know what he asked about your Moshe from Brooklyn. He didn't know very much Yiddish, but we'll find out. So the first time he's seen the survivors, So what he did, he said, you guys, there's a big store across the street. I'll take you in there, and you take anything you want. So we stripped all our clothes, we dressed ourselves up, took a lot of stuff there. And so after this, there was a Red Cross office there. I'm just going to make sure of this. I went into the Red Cross, and she gave us a big package. There was a 20-pounder, not a chocolate, something, not a good stuff. But she asked me if I have any kin in America or someplace. I didn't know what kin is at the time, because I went to high school 1 year. I learned English, God save the king, that's all I knew. So anyhow, she told us, I said, yes, I have an uncle, Benjamin Rakowski, who lives in Lima. She said, Lima, where? I said, I don't know, Lima, Peru, Lima, something there. So I said, sit down, young man, think about it a little bit. So I remembered, I had a good memory, I still have a memory. So my uncle was sending letters to my grandmother. Maybe he was sending money or so. So there was an envelope, and on the envelope was the name of the company. So I tried to explain to her, B-U-C-K-A, Buckeye, She said, Buckeye, that's Ohio. Buckeye is a symbol of Ohio. You don't know this. Buckeye is. So that card got to my uncle, but I'm Ohio. I didn't make it short, so we were there. We spent there a few weeks, and then decided to go back to Poland. So I went back to Poland.
Why?
No, I just want to tell you one other thing. So, see, I was separated from my parents for 3 years. So I got to the city of Krakow. There was traveling every place. We didn't have to buy tickets, nothing this. But on the main station in the city of Krakow, it's written up there's a Jewish community on Skarinska too in Krakow. I knew the city because I went to school there. So I went there to school, to the place. There was a book on the table. Everybody came and signed his name. Before I signed my name, I flip around the pages and I found my mother's name. Yes. My mother survived. The Red Army survived her in March 1943 or 1945 in Crossroads. There was another camp there. So you know, there was an address where she is. You know what sent us? You just pick up and go. That's my mother.
What about your brother?
So I come there to the house. The door is locked. Nobody's there. So the janitor comes out and I said, "Where's my mother?" She said, "Your mother's in the hospital." I said, "Yes." "No." She said, "She's not sick. Her sister is sick." Her sister, my aunt. So I was sitting on the steps waiting, maybe more than an hour or so. And here my mother comes. And so I don't have words how to explain to you how to see my mother there. Her emotions and my emotions. But this is one story, you know.
Other questions?
Yes.
So you talked at the beginning of the application by the Germans that you stayed with your family in your home. How did that happen, that you weren't bothered, you could stay in your home, and what were you doing during that time? What was your family doing?
Okay. So what happened is, in the little towns like in mine, there, everyone with 16 had to work, slave labor. And there was we happened to have our house, so we still have a house. But you see, we had families coming from the big cities. They didn't want to stay in the ghetto. They come to live with us. And two families living with us come, one from Warsaw, one from Lodz, you know. So there were terrible things there, you know. We had some German police in the city. We had German occupation there. There were a lot of unpleasant things there, you know. But we still lived there in my own house. And we had to work, slave labor. Sometimes they took some people out to another camp.
What about your parents?
About what?
What about your parents? Did they have to
What?
work as
Did your
well?
parents have to do
Yeah,
work
well,
too?
everybody had to work, yeah. Yeah. Anybody age 16 was staying there. But not all the time, they had enough work for everybody. It was, you know, they came and they asked from whoever was in charge there, give me 10 people for this job. So they didn't have work for everybody all the time.
Other questions or comments?
During the war, even right afterwards, did you ever meet a German who showed humanity, who tried to help you, do anything for you?
You know, let me tell you something. There's one time I was working in Pyeongki, you know, in a factory, and the supervisor was the driver of the owner of the company, and you know, he came out, he ate lunch outside. He always dropped a half a sandwich. Now, another story I have is my mother. My mother had two pictures, me and my brother's picture in the shoe, in Crossroads in the camp. And one day she was doing something, so a German woman assessment garden, she thought maybe she got some diamonds, God knows what she has there. But she asked her, "Sophie, what you got there?" So my mother pulled out the two pictures. So she said, "Give me the two pictures. Every time you want to see this, you come see me." And you know, she gave her the pictures back at the end of the war.
And she was a guard.
So that's why it's more experience I had. But there were some instances, there were some bad instances.
Other questions?
So,
Let me get one more up here.
I have two questions. How long did your mother live? How old were you? And also, how did you meet your wife?
First of all, see, my family, my mother survived the camp in Crossroads, and she was in 45 in March. My father survived the camp in Mauthausen, but he was a whole year after the war in the American military hospital, because they picked him up on the garbage. My brother died in the camp there. So what happened is, after the war, I got involved in fighting for the British would not let Jews into Palestine after the war, the British. So I was involved with a group that we were smuggling people to Palestine. I ended up in Palestine in April 46. We had permission to take some legally, some children, young children. So I was one of the group leader. So I went to Palestine in 46. And my parents went to the United States because my uncle in Ohio took my parents to the United States. So I took my parents. So I lived in Israel 10 years. I served in the army. I was in a kibbutz. I was wounded in the Israeli army. And that took my father 10 years to take me from Israel to America because he got sick, something. So we went for a visit. I married my wife in Israel. We had 2 children in Israel. I had a house in Israel. But we went to a visit in 46. And every time we wanted to go back to Israel, my father got sick. So finally we stayed there, and I stayed for 67 years in Ohio. In the building business. In America was a great country. I made a lot of money in America too. You know, my kids are educated. My daughter's a professor at university in Illinois. My son is a chief officer in a big company in San Francisco, you know. So we
I didn't hear it.
So in Ohio, I lived for 60 years. I was in the building business, the real estate, the building business in Canton, Ohio. And then for 25 years, I've been here in Florida. Now, for the last 6 years, I live in this Independence Living, wonderful place, you know. They feed me, they everything else. Good life, I hope so.
That's very good.
Last question.
In order to take something away from here, I'm going to ask you a very odd question. If you had Holocaust deniers sitting in this audience, what would you say to them?
Let me tell you, I will not discuss, I have no problem with deniers. You know, all can tell them, you can tell me that the sun doesn't shine now. What are they going to tell them with the deniers? I will not even argue with them. I have no problem with them either. You know, so we have neo-Nazis, we have the right-wing, we have all kind of stuff, so we got deniers. It's okay. We had some interesting thing. There was Professor Lipschitz had a lawsuit in London. She won against one of the deniers. Yeah. So in some countries it's against the law, not in every place. We live here in a free country. You can speak what you want.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
I make a great living. She keeps him busy here.
I paid him time and a half tonight. Time and a half times 0. But it's not easy, as you can imagine, to share this dark part of your life. And so let's give him another